it's a cliche to call him India's finest actor, though no doubt he is. A master of his craft, perhaps one of our most thinking actors. And he straddles the worlds of cinema, theatre and television with flair. Naseeruddin Shah, it's an honor to be talking to you here at Column, the Kolkata Literary Meet.
Thank you very much.
You're probably also rather fed up of being called innovative, but I think your choice of selecting Monto's short stories to do dramatized readings of is probably exactly that. So if you could begin by just telling us a little more about why you selected the text that you did.
I was lucky enough to find a book of Ismat Chughtai's stories, and the first 3 stories I read were Chui Mui, Mughal Bachcha and Gharwali, the 3 which I decided to do. The moment I read them, I decided I would do them, because there was a footnote somewhere in which Ismat herself says that when I write a story, I feel as if I'm chatting with the reader. And a lot of people are amused, a lot of people are offended, some get up and go away. But this is my way of chatting, and I thought, let's try this. And everybody was skeptical about it, including Ratna, who's extremely supportive of everything I do. She was under the impression that nobody would understand this language. One person on stage for close to an hour would not hold an audience, etc.
But you do one brilliantly. But if I could just sort of add to that question, Monto and Chugtai have one thing in common, which was that they were both charged with obscenity. They were actually put on trial for it. Monto 6 times in the course of his literary career, 3 times during British India, 3 times post that in post-partition Pakistan. Was there a political choice in selecting these 2 authors?
No, I have to confess, no. I was unaware of the depth of their writing before I encountered it. And the more I read of them, the more I realized that these 2 are fit to be categorized among the greatest short story writers in the world. The fact that they picked on Monto more than they picked on Ismat or other writers was probably because Monto liked to ruffle feathers. He was not at all happy with status quo in any way. Ismat was perhaps a little more diplomatic. But it's really worrying to see how far the moral policing of art has come since 1942, when Ismat was charged with obscenity for her story The Quilt, and he was tried for obscenity for his story Boo, which means the odor. And they were both acquitted because there was not a single word in either story which could be counted as obscene. And Lahav, in fact, is such a cleverly written story that people mistake the nature of the story. In my opinion, the story is about child abuse. It's not about gays, but that's what it was taken for. And people were appalled that a woman could write this kind of thing, and perhaps because she was a woman, she got picked on. And of course, there was nothing even remotely obscene that they could find in the story. In Monto's case, very amusing things happened, because the one word they did find was the word breast. So he said, yeah, what am I to call a breast if not a breast? And he had a very funny repartee. He says कि मैं छाती को छाती ना कहूँ तो क्या मेज कहूँ या मूंगफली कहूँ या उस तरह कहूँ. And they were finally acquitted. But the point is that at least their works were not burnt in public. At least they were not reviled. They were not dragged into the streets. Their precious output was not destroyed. They were not banned. They were not banished from the country. They didn't have to run away. None of that happened. And I guess what's happening now, and what we've seen happen over the last 10 or 12 years, is a very worrisome trend where anybody who decides to take offense, I decide to take offense at being called grey-haired tomorrow, I can stand up and make a movement about that. So it's a terrible situation, and the fact is that it is politically motivated now. I don't know about then. It was probably not. It was just people's prudery was outraged. But these days it's much more than that.
I think that's a very important point that you make, and we've been talking a lot about Section 377 here. If Section 377 has ensured that homosexuals in this country remain in the closet, then there is another equally well, outdated and perhaps archaic law, Section 292, that ensures that our plays, our books, our art, in fact, can also be charged, targeted for obscenity.
Yeah, as and when it suits anybody to do so.
And indeed, it seems to suit people more and more to do that. So, is it a time for artists, for writers, for playwrights, for performers to perhaps, well, stress the need, the right to hold on to obscenity or question the people who determine what is obscene?
Somebody has to define the term obscenity and vulgarity. I think the people who framed this law were unaware of the massive culture, the things that Vikram was talking about last night. I don't see how this kind of a law could have been framed when there is no clear definition of what it is that is offensive. Anybody can find anything offensive. I'm afraid I'm not terribly familiar with the law that you are talking about, but it seems to have been formulated by someone who is a terrible prude. And I don't think it holds water. I don't know what it is the artists can do except to continue doing what their instincts drive them to. I can't see a movement of 5,000 artists who will gather outside Parliament House and demonstrate against a thing like that. All we can do is to stay undeterred and continue to do what we believe in.
So, unlike Vikram said, then do you believe that art and activism can go hand in hand?
Well, I think Shabana will be better equipped to handle that answer. I believe in the kind of activism which I can be involved in via my work. I will not dump my work and jump onto a political bandwagon just like that. I feel that whatever contribution I can make will be through my work, and that is what I should stick to. I should not try to spread my wings much further. I may get singed.
Well, yours is the total theatre family. You, your wife, now your children. Is it very different from them for them now compared to, say, what you would have really experienced when you told your family that you wanted to become an actor?
I never told them. I didn't have the courage to. My brothers were the only two I could confide in, and they were bemused because they could see what actors look like. And they said, well, yeah, this is very good, but, you got to think about it again. Why don't you try the IAS, for example? So, with my children, they've been on stage with us from the time they were born. Both of them, as babies, have appeared on the stage in the crowd in Julius Caesar. And since they were, wherever we needed a child, they got pulled in. So I think it was just the natural course of things for them. In the same way as it was in the natural course of things for both my brothers to opt, one for an engineering course and one for a career in the army, because that's what
The family did.
That's what good boys did. I was the black sheep.
But when did you know that you wanted to be the black sheep, that you wanted to become an actor?
I knew by the time I was about 13 or 14. I had this fantasy world in which I lived. Watching movies and watching plays was my only obsession. I couldn't understand a thing I was taught in class, except the literature classes. I used to get 100 out of 100 in dictation, and I got the highest marks in composition, but I'd failed in grammar. I'm still not sure what a pronoun is. Or a participle, or one of those things.
The dangling variety.
Yeah, the dangling variety. But if there was any gift I was blessed with, I think it was an ear for the spoken word. And I can recall voices I've heard when I was 5 years old. I can still recall exactly the quality of the voice, and they are a great help because I can reproduce them